So I'm Barbara. My husband and I moved here to Maryland in 1999. And I don't want to go back too far, but I was born and raised in Minnesota, got a music teaching degree, taught school music for a while, and moved out to California to work for the Lutheran Church for a while, and then worked near UCLA, and then that's where I met my husband, and then he had a postdoc, so we lived in Israel for 2 years, and then after that we did some tenure track searching for my husband's PhD, and then we ended up here in Maryland in 1999. So I started out teaching school here in Prince George's County Public Schools as a music teacher at an elementary school that had a wing with talented and gifted students. It was kind of a magnet program at the time, so we had both, but my belief was good creative teaching goes with not only the talented and gifted, but everybody. So I did that for a while and then moved over to IT for a while because I had an interest in technology. As a music teacher, I was teaching the kids, and this was back in the day of, do you remember Gateway computers? And so we had them as a lab, and I figured out how to teach the kids how to compose music using just the computer web browser and their keyboard. And we did some clay animation stuff. So anyway, eventually then I was invited to go work with IT and try and help with technology integration. And then I was out of the fine arts for a while, but became good friends with the music supervisor in the department. Our school district has 137,000 students and 205 schools. And so now that I'm working in central office, I moved over to the fine arts. That I was, attracted to it, and was invited to then be a technology integration person. And but I did it through the arts. And then eventually in 2014, the person I was working with, my supervisor, her name is Anita Lambert, some of you may know her, helped to begin to invent a program called, or a position, Media Arts Instructional Specialist. So I applied for that, I got it. And basically what we started doing was building a media arts program in Prince George's County Public Schools, where I had a cohort of teachers that I had been supporting, just making stuff up as I went along. They were technology teachers, but now with media arts, I was able to find all of those teachers who were teaching something with broadcasting. We did have a few TV studios and things like that. And I worked really hard with a group of teachers, a large group of teachers, to develop curriculum so that we could build a program from from kindergarten all the way up through seniors. So in the end,
Can I stop you for a second? I just want
yes,
to get this down.
boring. I'm sorry.
No. The IT portion where you were a technology integrator, I think you call it,
Mhm.
and you worked with music. It sounded like you chose specifically to work with music with IT.
Well, I
How were you allowed to do that, or supported in that, and why?
I don't know if I was necessarily allowed. I just did it, and if it caused problems, I asked for forgiveness. Um, but
And
what
what year was that?
that was between a little after 2005 was when I kind of started playing with all of that. And
Okay.
what happened was we were discovering that there's, this hands-on, minds-on stuff, creating things writing music, doing soundtracks for things. And we did it very primitive at the beginning. These teachers and their students were bringing in their passions into whatever subject it was. And my passion at the time was music. And well, I still is, but the so it grew from there. And then in with the beginning of the national art standards and the new media arts standards, and that happened in 2014, that allowed the justification for my supervisor to say, hey, we need a media arts, an official media arts position that supports teachers specifically for media arts. And so that's what
What year was that?
that was 2014. It was a little after, well, it was 2014. We knew it was coming. Dane, I knew about you before you even knew I existed.
Before I even know
Found you online, and you know, I knew this Dane Olson guy from California, and he's breaking ground in legislation and all that stuff. And I thought, you know, this is where we need to go. And lo and behold, here we are today. I don't know if you knew that, Dane. I never really told you that, but
No, didn't
I
think.
discovered you online.
Wow.
So anyway, the passions have grown, and as a result, because media arts has been embraced and included in the fine arts, and because Maryland has adopted the standards, the media arts standards, we finally got a position established for a media arts supervisor. And so now there's a media arts supervisor and a media arts instructional specialist, just like there is a music supervisor and a music instructional specialist, and all of the other art forms have that same thing. So those of you who know Maryland, Prince George's County is quite fortunate to have such a large fine arts department that supports schools. And once that position was established, I figured, you know what? I've accomplished my goals in the public school. We now have, you know, what I've always wanted. And then I looked at how old I am, and my daughter graduated from college, and my husband and I, our house is paid off. So I thought, you know what? It's time to retire. So I chose to retire July 1 of this year. So I'm about a month and 8 days into retirement. And for some reason, I'm busier than I was before. I don't know how that happens.
Exactly.
But I'm very happy to see the progression of how media arts grew.
And what kinds of things did you do in your media arts position? You served that pretty large district there, and you hired quite a few teachers, or at least you brought them into the fold.
Yes, we had, by the end, I was acquainted with worked with specifically 105 teachers that were sprinkled about the county doing media arts a lot of them at the high school level. One of the things that I feel is an accomplishment is that with all of the curriculum writing that we had been doing, and I didn't write the curriculum. What I did as a leader was find the people who knew a lot, who were teaching this stuff, and hired them to write the curriculum, and I kind of managed it. So that was one big thing. And as a result of that, our first level media arts production 1 at the high school level is coded with SCED code and all that kind of thing as qualifying for or as a fine arts credit for graduation. And I think, you know, kids can take that, and they're doing it. They're broadcasting their sporting events, they're making movies, and then they go on. I mean, it's just wonderful that we give them that opportunity to do something that they already have been playing with TikTok and YouTube and all that. And then we can teach them, real composition and things like that. So that's one big thing. The other one is that, again, as a leader, I knew there were experts in the field and we wanted to do professional development. So I learned how to delegate, and I hired teachers who were good at this or that and invited them to lead professional development. And I was able to give stipends and honorariums and stuff for them to do that. And they're just so much better than someone who's not in the classroom anymore to lead professional development, because they're like with their own people, And so that I felt really proud of. So those were two big things.
Now, the supervisor position then comes at this higher level. What kinds of things do you imagine is possible within that position then?
Well, one of the things as an instructional specialist that I hit my head on the wall with was that I wasn't a supervisor. And when I would try and, mash with the established, what is it, system, principals didn't really think I had,
Mhm.
the whatever. And a supervisor provides a, I don't know, classically conditioned response out of the principals and the other administrators to see that. So that's one thing that I'm really
Well,
excited.
for example, what might one thing be that they could push their weight behind?
Um, Having a closer connection to the superintendent and advocating for media arts funding. It's not cheap. And I think that is a huge barrier to growing is the financial, or, TV studios are expensive and you can't, I mean, yeah, you can use a cell phone, but they need to learn how to use the real thing, or they're not going to know what they need to do if they go work at NBC or whatever after this. So that's one thing I think that
Now,
they
that kind
will.
of a program is more of a career technical education program,
Well,
or
that's the other thing too, is that I agree with the career technical education part, but it's not just the technical part, it's the art and the design and the aesthetics and the message and the communicating and interacting and things like that, that I think comes when you think of it as a fine art and a career technical education part. So I'm a both and, or a yes and, as opposed to either or. And that's a big conversation, I think, with a lot of school districts. I think they're talking about, you're under, or you were, Dane, in the CTE department, as opposed to, is that right? Fine arts?
well, I was both and.
Okay, good. See,
I
that's
have
why I
an
like you
art,
so much, Dane.
I have an art credential, but I got my CTE credential. I was able to have
Mhm.
CTE programs, but I was under the categorical of the general fund and so forth. So I was funded as a visual arts teacher, essentially.
Mhm. Cool. And we
Um,
we need everybody.
well, sure. Okay, so then you now give workshops, and you have been doing workshops for a while. You go to a lot of conventions, you love sharing your methods. Maybe describe one of your workshops and what it's about.
Okay. Well, what I've been busy with this summer has been, I've been teaching a 40-hour, 1 week long um, virtual professional development course um, called Spacesuits in Progress, Sewable Electronics, and where we learn how to make e-textiles that integrate computing devices like microcontrollers. And the purpose is to help teachers become familiar with creating and being creative and artistic with the coding technology that they're asking teachers. You know, a lot of computer science is happening right now. I see it as a huge opportunity for the arts, because media arts, especially because that's what we do, what we are. And I think that it's an opportunity. Anyway, we use spacesuits as a theme because I don't know if you knew this, but the spacesuits were sewn by a group of women who people probably don't know about, but they hired them from a company that is now called Playtex, and they made women's undergarments, and they pulled them over to a top secret thing, and they contributed to building a spacesuit that was flexible and all that. So we learn through a historical thing, and then the student or the teachers would make their own mission patches and then add the interactivity with sensors to sense the environment and stuff like that. The other class I'm teaching now is the Start with Art um, paper circuitry. So we're teaching teachers how to design with copper tape or conductive materials and LEDs, and making murals and other artful things that they can use to bring students into thinking and computational learning and thinking. And it's starting with art as opposed to slapping the art on it later. You know what I mean?
Mm.
And the art is what inspires the technologies part of it. So that's my interests right now. But I also I like to keep my mind open and do all other kinds of things. So to me, I hope I'm not boring you. Sorry,
No,
Dean.
not at all. No, Barbara, of course. Um, yeah, so
I can show you an example of the artful mural that I was just describing. Would you be interested in taking a
yeah,
look at that?
absolutely.
I'm going to share my screen, and I'm going to share Chrome, and I'm going to share sound. And whoops, you don't want to see that. YouTube. Okay, this is just beautiful. I'm not even going to talk. is I think the inside is as beautiful as the outside.
Yeah.
And I'm going to stop it because I don't want to make it play for 3 whole minutes, but let me do it gracefully here.
Very
And
nice.
so that's the kind of thing I think is just fun. I think it's awesome. So yeah, that's what we want our kids to think about making.
That's great. Thank you very much for being here
Yeah.
and
Oh,
taking
you're
the
welcome.
interview. So